What's up YouTube, Dal here from Zephyr, and today I am bringing you a test stand combo video for the $100 Red Dragon Archfiend budget build. Now all of the test stands you're going to see, the majority of them will still be able to be conducted with just using free structure decks. We might alternate some of the paths because what you've really done by investing a bit more money into the deck is add in more hand traps and consistencies with stuff like Small World and maybe Bestial Disbatter. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell and subscribe. Getting a video above 50 likes in the first 24 hours will unlock a more aggressive bestial version of the deck as well. So with all of that out of the way, after a very decent shuffle and a good old cut, our first test stand of 5 will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okie dokie. This is actually really kind of cool. So it's another way you will burn through more in your hand, but it'll also mean that your end board is now also going to be able to add a Skullmeister and an Imperm to it as well. So you're going to start off by normal summoning your Vision Resonator. You're then going to special summon down your Wandering King Wildwind. Before you make a synchro, make sure you activate Foolish Burial because you do want to get your Crimson Resonator to the graveyard. I can't wait for that to get a foil. It definitely deserves it by now. You're then going to synchro these two together. You're going to go into Red Rising. You're going to be able to go chaining 1 Vision, chaining 2 Red Rising, because obviously Vision can be Ash, whereas Red Rising can't. If you're worried about Ghost Bell, then you do it the other way around, but at the moment that's not really in the format. So Red Rising would revive Crimson Resonator, and your Vision would then allow you to search out a card that lists, or technically a spell or trap that lists Red Dragon. So I'm going to be going for Crimson Gaia, just because when I activate Crimson Gaia, I can then search out an extender if I want it or if I need it, which at the moment I don't. And I can also get direct access to the trap card, meaning that I also have the ability to change up my end board should I want to. So we're going to add Red Zone, which does give you a nice little bit of interruption alongside your Imperm and Skullmeister. Now what you want to do is you want to activate Crimson Resonator's effect. Now there are, again, different outcomes to this depending on how you want to do it. The normal play that Joe likes to go for, and I completely agree with on this one, is you would summon out Synchron Resonator, and then usually you would summon out Vision Resonator, but you can summon out any level 2 Synchron you want. So in this particular build that I've shown you, we don't play Red Resonator, but if you wanted to, you could do, and you'd gain a little bit of life points in this scenario. The idea is that you don't always open up with your Vision Resonator. So you want to be getting this to the board so that you then can search out another spell and trap, but because we've already done that, it now becomes a little bit redundant. You could, if you wanted to, go for your Soul Resonator instead. You just then need to be able to activate the Bone Daddy or the Bone Archfiend to adapt its level to kind of make this as an effective board as you possibly could. So it's entirely up to you on which way you'd want to go. I'll go with Soul Resonator just to kind of show you a different route of play. So the Soul Resonator will then add you the Bone Archfiend, and technically it'll be the same combos I've already shown you, but just a different way of getting there, which is really kind of cool and important. Now there's a lot of things you've got to remember here, and mainly I need to remember as well, is when you're syncing these off, triggering the right effects, making sure you get everything you need to. So you're going to want to use your Crimson plus your Red Rising, and you're going to go into an 8 being your Scarred Dragon Archfiend. Then what you want to do here is you can use your Synchron Resonator plus your Scarred to upgrade that into a Hot Red Abyss, triggering Scarred's effect and Synchron's effect. Now keeping in mind, when you add back Vision Resonator, you haven't used its own special summon effect, so this does become a free summon if you want to. Otherwise, you're adding back a card that just becomes free fodder for the back of Bone Archfiend. You'd also triggered the Scarred Archfiend's effect to summon you out your Red Dragon Archfiend. Now this is where you need to adapt the level of Soul Resonator because 3 is not that great with this one. You could try and push for a 12 if you wanted to, but ultimately you want to try and get Red Dragon Archfiend to go into a 10, and you 100% do not want to leave it on the board because a lot of people forget this. During your end phase, destroy all other monsters you control that did not declare an attack this turn. So if you leave this on the board, boom, everything else goes. So very, very important. Now, with the scenario that we're in now, you can use Bone Archfiend effect to send the Crimson Gaia if you want to, or you can send the Vision Resonator. You can kind of cut the middleman out and you can actually go down for Vision Resonator, summon itself down for free. Now, the reason I'm going to show you the Bone Archfiend is to show you why the Overloop is actually in the deck, because it's really, really kind of cool. So for that example, I will use Vision Resonator as the discard fodder. Now, in the scenario, a lot of people have already seen the combo where you're like, right, okay, well, what you want to send off of your Bone Archfiend is your Crimson Resonator. Well, now we've already done all of that. What else would you send? Well, this is where the Overloop comes in, which I think is a really kind of cool tech. So massive shout out to Joe on that one. So you send the Overloop. You send that. You then adapt your Soul Resonator to being 2. Now, obviously, in this scenario, what you'd probably be pushing for is you'd probably be pushing to synchro these two into a 6. But because we're a little bit more developed in the play, what you're actually going to want to do here is you're going to want to synchro your Red Dragon Archfiend and your Soul Resonator going into a 10, being your Bane. Now, remember, Bane has the nice effect to be able to revive from the graveyard. This is how you do it the structure deck route, but you could very also, instead of going into Bane, get the same outcome, but you'd go into Disbatter, so you actually have a negate. How do you get into the same outcome, I hear you cry? Well, very simply, if you go Bane, what you do is you tribute off a monster, so your Bone Archfiend, and you'll bring back your Scarred Dragon Archfiend. If you go with Disbatter, what you actually do here is you use the Obsessive Overloop to banish your Scarred from the graveyard. And then, so this one is, if this card is in your hand, you can target a synchro monster you control or in the graveyard, banish it, and if you do, special summon it. If this card is in the graveyard, you target a synchro monster you control or in your graveyard, you banish it, and if you do, add this card to the hand. So you add the Overloop back to the hand, and you can only use each effect once per turn. So as long as you've got multiple synchros in the graveyard, you can use the summon from hand and the graveyard. So this is then going to allow you to banish the Scarred Red Dragon. Now, obviously, with having one banished, Disbatter will still have the negate, but as we go through this play, you'll see we'll still do that, and we'll add an additional monster to the end board. So Disbatter's effect is going to bring back the Scarred Archfiend. You're then going to use the Overloop, and Overloop will then banish from the graveyard. You can banish a Red Dragon Archfiend, or you can banish a Red Rising. Doesn't make much of a difference. You're just going to end up putting them back into the extra deck anyway. And this will then summon down the Overloop. Now, Overloop is a level 4 tuner, and your Bone Archfiend is a level 4. So, you can very easily go into any generic level 8 Dark Dragon you have in your extra deck, and the one we're going to be going for, just because I like him so much, is Scarlet Red Dragon Archfiend. So, we're going to set the Imperm. You've got your Skullmeister in the hand. Now, as the end board kind of shows you, you've got a floating Scarred Red Dragon Archfiend, which is also treated as Red Dragon Archfiend, so you get the ability to target a card on the field and destroy it. You also get to target one of your banished Dark Dragon Synchro monsters and special summon it, so you can bring back your Red Rising if you want to. You've then also got the ability coming back as an aggressive option. You've got Scarlight for a nuke. You've got Abyss as a negate. You've got Disbatter as a negate. You've got Imperm as a negate. You've got Skullmeister, boom, as a negate. And then, of course, you've got your Crimson Guy to search you out or add back from the graveyard during the next turn. You've also got your Overloop still in the graveyard for a follow-up of the next turn as well, with a guaranteed synchro in there to be banished. So it's a really kind of cool route of play, and that's just what the Overloop can add. Like I've said previously in a couple of comments, the one thing that this deck is truly lacking is it's lacking that general Baron negate. Like when you compare it to Synchrons, Synchrons have access to get to Baron before their 5th summon, or they've got a way to go through Axel Stardust. Now, unfortunately, the restrictions on the Archfiend deck in general kind of stop you doing that. So the best way of being able to do it, and without using the Bestials, there isn't really a way to do it, but you have to play stuff like Foolish Bearer of Goods to send Time to Stand Up, and then you try and turbo into a level 10 Dark Dragon, which means you bypass all of the locks that you need to, or you can play through your locks that you put yourself into, and then that gives you the ability to negate stuff like Nibiru's, which is the only thing you really do fearful. But then again, if your opponent doesn't drop the Nibiru at the right time, the deck will continue to extend. It's crazy. Anyway, so that was our first test stand. What we'll do is we'll shuffle up again. We'll do another test stand going first. I'm hoping that I'm giving you as much detail as possible, but if I am missing anything, or if you do have any questions regarding a specific kind of moment, then if you can timestamp it, that would be great, because then I can go back and review and go, oh yeah, this is why I did this, and work it from there. But let's shuffle up. We'll do a second test stand going first, just so you can kind of see it, and then we'll do one, maybe two, depending on time, going second. So, second test stand will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All the cards. Okay, cool. So naturally, we've got pretty much all the stuff we really wanted in our hand already. Small World is obviously going to be there to get into the Santa Claus if we need it. It can also help us get into an extender. Should our opponent stop what we're trying to do, then we can get into a free extender and then push our plays further forward ourselves naturally. Now what I mean by that is, for example, if I went to like ignore we had Bone Archfiend, right? So let's just say this was our hand here. Let's say we activated Soul Resonator to try and add a level 4 Lower Fiend, and our opponent ashed us. With a hand like this, we'd be like, oh no, we're not going anywhere. But you can then use Small World to open up Vision Resonator and then bridge into something like the Wandering Wild King and try and push your plays through there, or you just naturally go and search into a Bone Archfiend as well. So that's why Small World's such a good kind of alternative option. That being said, because our hand completely looks like this, we get to add a level 4 or lower fiend from the deck to the hand. So let's go for an extender. Yeah, we'll go for Obsessive Overloop. You could do it a little bit. Actually, no, let's not go to Overloop. I'll do it a different way. Let's go for Crimson. There we go. Get rid of that bad boy. Then we're going to go for Bone Archfiend. Send Resonator to the graveyard. We're then going to use Bone Archfiend to send from deck to grave. So we'll use the Overloop. We'll then adapt Soul Resonator to become a level 2. And then we are going to synchro these two. It's like what I'm trying to show with this deck is like how minimal you need to add to it, if anything, and your consistency is still there. Like it's absolutely insane. So Red Rising effect will trigger to allow you to bring back Crimson. I love like this scenario puts you in the perfect situation for your Crimson Resonator's effect to go Crimson Resonator, okay, and then Crimson is going to go and bring us out our Synchron and our Vision. Now obviously you've got Vision as a free extender from the hand as well, so again this is another scenario where you can very easily bring out Red Resonator, gain a bit of life, and then extend with your Vision Resonator later on. But at least you've got this as a follow-up for the next turn, or discard fodder, or like I said, a bridge for Small World should you need it. So again, the exact same standard play here. What you want to do is you'd probably want to use Vision plus Red Rising, go into Scarred. Oh, I like Scarred so much. Such a good card, man. Use Vision's effect. I always go for Crimson Gaia. I just think it's such a good card. Like, unless you, well, I mean, if you've been drolled before this, you're not going to get Crimson Gaia anyway. But activate your Crimson Gaia just to kind of get that out of the way. I'm just going to put those to the side. Crimson Gaia then gets you your Red Zone. Very, very nice. And then you've got the ability to synchro higher. So you can use your Crimson Resonator and go into Bane if you want to, but we're going to go into an Abyss instead, because we can get into a Bane again in a minute. Use the effect of Scarred, summon out Red Dragon, very, very nice. Use the effect of Synchron to add you back. Now I would probably add back a follow-up for the next turn, so I'm going to go for the Soul Resonator, just because I've got Vision in the hand already, so it's not a big deal. Then you can use Crimson plus Archfiend and go into Bane. Again, you've got the option to go into Disbatter if you want to. I'm going to see if I can get into both. Just trying to think if that is possible. It should be, but we will soon see. You can then use Obsessive Overloop. We're going to banish Red Rising on this one. Now, obviously, you went with Disbatter, you'd banish your Scarred and get the same outcome. Then special summon down your Vision Resonator. You can then use Hot Red. Trying to think what we get with this one. So Bane would then get rid of... no, I don't want to get rid of Vision Resonator. I can do it. I can do it. So you're going to use Obsessive Overloop. You're going to banish your Red Dragon Archfiend. You're going to summon down Overloop. You're then going to use Bane to get rid of Overloop and bring back your Scarred. And then what you do here is you use Vision Resonator, sync these two together, get you into Disbatter. And then I don't think there's a way of getting Scarred banish again. No. Still good though, because then you'll Disbatter, bring back anything bar the Red Dragon Archfiend, because you'll lose your entire board. Bring back your Red Rising. You've got your negate set up for your Bestial Disbatter already. I'm going to move this out of the way so people don't get confused. It's the banish zone, not the field center zone. And then you still get your free hand. So it's like, okay, well, I want to add a different hand trap. I want to get to a hand trap. So you can go Small World and try and get to a different hand trap. You can go, all right, I want to make sure that during my next turn, my opponent cannot, like I can kaiju my opponent. I can deal with anything they put on the board. So then you can Small World bridge from Soul Resonator. You can pretty much go into anything. So anything that is just a fiend, that's the only thing they match. And then go into your Santa Claus. And again, the only thing that matches on these is the fact that it's a fiend. So you'd get rid of those. And what you've basically done, yes, you've sacked off a card, but you've set yourself up to have a Skullmeister and a board-breaking Kaiju. Plus, all you need to do, like if you wanted to, you could actually leave Scarred on the board, because then you'd have a Red Dragon Archfiend to pop a card. But on the tops of that, you've pretty much got everything you need. Yeah, you're good to rock and roll with this. And then going the next turn, aggression. Like this, basically, when you're going first with this deck, if your board survives, you near enough guarantee OTK the next turn, especially with Crimson Gaia, because you're going to book a moon everything and then just smack into it all. And then your Bane's got double damages. Like, it's just so aggressive when it does that way. The only issue is it's a bit of a struggle to play natural board breakers. Like, if you wanted to play the aggressive build of this, like a go second version, then you're going to be putting in your Bestials. You're also going to be putting in, like, Forbidden Droplets to break boards and just go all out aggression, which is where your Red Supernova can come into play. Use that, banish the entire board, then make you stronger monsters and just, one shot. Anyway, so that's it for us going first. We'll now shuffle out and we'll now go second to show you aggression. Now, obviously, it's always going to be a little bit difficult when you're going second because the chances are, unless your opponent's bricked, they've already got some form of interaction set up, should we say. So, our test hand of 6 will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, interesting. We're definitely, more than likely going to need to activate Small World to get us through this. I've probably used Skullmeister, like 9 times out of 10 I'm probably going to make, like, if you've got to open up a hand right in your first 5, more times than not you've probably used it. So, we're normal summon down at the Resonator, with special summon down at the Wandering King Wildwind. Now, you could change this up as well. You could, actually, I am going to change this up. I'm going to go Small World first. Now, if I feel I need to break my opponent's board, which is really, really important, then I would probably look at going into the Santa Claus. On this, I'm actually going to try and bridge to my starter, which is my Resonator, just because then it gets you that little bit further. So, what you want to do here is your end goal is your Soul Resonator. So what you need is something in the middle that will bridge these two cards. So very easily, you need a dark, or you need something that is not a level 2. So, not a dark, sorry. Can't be a dark unless it's not a non-fiend. So, where are you? So, I mean, your Santa Claus is your perfect kind of, like, bridge, but also what is a nice little bridge as well is your Super. Now, if you're never going to use your Super, you get rid of it. It can be a little bit risky, but it's the same thing of getting rid of your Kaiju as well. So it's always a little bit difficult when you're trying to bridge from the dark to the fire because your middle card needs to be something more unique. And it will need to become one of your one-offs. So like your Overloop, or your other option on that one is, no, Super, I can't do it. Your other option on that one is, I think that's it. No, those two and Santa Claus. So the only bridge that will bridge these is the fact that they're, it will be all your one-offs. So you just need to decide which one of these is least effective for you right now. Honestly, I'm going to go with Super just because I'm going to push for an OTK. So it's like if I haven't opened up the Super Dustwalker, I'm just going to go for the aggression anyway. So they get banished. I add the Soul Resonator. If they try to ash me or draw me, I've got Call By, so I'm protected. Normal summon Soul's effect is going to go off, and it's going to search you out Bone Archfiend. Special Bone Archfiend by sending a card. Now I feel at this point, if my opponent hasn't used a hand trap, Call By the Grave is just very easy fodder. These are just free extenders, so you can hold on to them for as long as you want to. So we'll get rid of the Call By. I know a little bit risky, but you play it as you do. Send the Crimson Resonator. And then what you want to do here is you're going to sync these, obviously making sure that your Soul Resonator becomes a do. You're going to go into Red Rising. Red Rising will bring back Crimson. You can then use Crimson's effect before you special these down, because then you will put yourself in a bit of a hole. And you're going to go into, wherever it may be, a Vision Resonator. And then you'll also go into, you can go into a Synchron Resonator and then still use this as an extender if you need to. Absolutely fine. Cool. So then what you're going to want to do here is Vision plus Red Rising and go into Scarred. Effect of Vision. Add you Crimson Gaia. Activate Crimson Gaia. Now again, it's up to you on this one. Because you're going second, you're probably going a little bit more aggressive. You might not want to search out the trap card. But I'm going to search it out as a follow-up anyway. You can very easily just add any kind of card that lists Red Dragon Archfiend in its text. So that will give you an extender or a follow-up for the next turn, should you feel that this turn may not go as far as you want it to. Then we're going to go into Abyss, setting you up with a negate. Triggering the effect of the Synchron Engrave to add you back an extender. So you're going to add back your Vision Resonator. You're then going to trigger Scarred as well to bring out your Red Dragon Archfiend. You can then Crimson Resonator and Red Dragon Archfiend into either Disbatter or of course Bane. Bane is definitely the more aggressive one between the two, so that's the one I would be going for in this scenario. Then what you want to do here is you're going to want to use the ability to special summon any of your Resonators first, and then you can special summon down the Wandering King. So you special summon down your Vision Resonator, you can then special summon down the Wandering King, and you're just basically now going boom, boom, boom. So you've got your option for a Synchro 6 if you want to, entirely up to you. But what you're going to want to do here is you can use Bane's effect to actually tribute off your Wandering King to give you your Scarred. And then you can go into another level 9, being a second Abyss if you want to. You can upgrade Abyss into a 10. You can sync these into a 10. It really is up to you on how you'd want to push this further forward. But what you got to remember as well is when your Red Dragon Archfiend declares an attack, so you want him on the board. If a monster is on the field, you can change. You can change all monsters your opponent controls to face down defense position. And then if a monster or monsters on the field is destroyed by a Red Dragon Archfiend, destroyed by card effect, you get to special summon a Red Dragon Archfiend from the graveyard, which you do still have. So you'll go to the battle phase. I mean, you can very easily get rid of this if you want to, instead of the Wandering Wild King, if you're not going to Synchro Climb into a 10. So if you're not going to Synchro Climb into the 10, keep the Wandering Wild King. I keep calling it Wandering Wild King, but it's Wandering King Wildwind, but I think Wild King sounds better. So then this is your current board as you go to battle phase, right? So what you want to do is you'd probably want to declare with this one first, just to Book a Moon everything, depending on where you want to go. Keeping in mind that your Bane, when this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you get to special on 2 tuners with the same level from your deck. One from deck, one from graveyard and defense. So you'd probably want to put Bane in the extra monster zone just so you've got the spaces to do that. It's only going to let you Synchro Climb the next turn, but it will also kind of give you... it will also give you a bit more on the board as well. So a little bit like an 800 poke or whatnot. Either way. Bane is dealing... when it inflicts battle damage, you're good to rock and roll. You've also got to remember as well, when Abyss inflicts battle damage, you get to target a tuner in your graveyard and special in defense. So again, it's a lot of kind of reviving and going around. So you'll end up making a stronger board afterwards. But for the pure fact, what you're doing here is you're going to declare with this, Book a Moon everything if it's less threatening, or if you want to be dealing damage, really up to you. And then you'll destroy a card on the field. You then get to bring back the Red Dragon Archfiend. You've got to make sure all of your cards attack. And then remember, if this card attacks a defense position monster, you destroy all defense position monsters your opponent controls. So if you do attack, Book a Moon everything, as long as you've destroyed a card with this, Red Dragon Archfiend comes back, attacks, clears the entire board off, and then you're going in for 6-7, and then maths do my head right, 8-4, I believe. So it's like total game there. So just like these 3 have cleared your opponent's board, and then these are finishing the game off. So that's what I mean. There's loads of different options. Like, as long as you do battle damage, you can trigger the effects of these if you keep the spaces clear. It's rare that you're going to actually need to do that, but it's just something to note that during a grind game or during a game where you know you cannot OTK that turn, maybe they be still out your Red Dragon Archfiend from the graveyard, then you'll kind of change it up a little bit. Anyway, now let's move into our final test hand going second. Utilising such a fun deck. I do like the kind of juxtaposition between this and the Synchron deck. Like the Synchron deck can be considered, in my opinion, like you say, blue, so a lot more defensive. And then you consider Jack Atlas as, you know, red, a lot more aggressive, which I just really like that, you know, how that worked out. Anyway, moving on to our last test hand, going with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, we got everything. We got activate Skullmeister, and then you can already see from this hand we've got combo. Like literally just that is combo. That's combo as well. So let's start off. Soul Resonate. We've got no protection. That's the only issue. Like if this gets stopped, we can still summon down Bone Archfiend. We can still then try and we could still special summon down Wandering Wild King, and you're going to be able to try and synchro your plays up that way. I mean, this just gives you into a synchro 10 on its own, but it's not ideal. Not ideal at all. Anyway, Soul Resonate uses effect. This is then going to search out your Crimson Resonate. Like, altogether. Really, bro? Crimson Resonate. Not that I want to see it in hand, actually. Crimson Resonator. And the reason you're going to add that is because then Bone Archfiend can then send your Resonator. And then Bone Archfiend effect will send you... Where are you? Your Overloop. I really like Overloop. Such a cool name as well. Synchro those two, Red Rising. We're just going to rinse and repeat. Like I said, the idea of this deck is to show you consistency. Like the consistency factor is off the chain. Bring back Crimson Resonator. Crimson Resonator is now well within its remits to use this effect. So we're going to use this effect. Obviously, if our opponent... That's like, as a tutorial, if you're facing this deck, that's one of the places. Like, you stop your opponent's Red Rising, that can cause them issues. If you stop their Resonator, either coming back from the graveyard, or... like, I think the worst thing is if you bestial the Crimson Resonator, the whole deck will just cry. But it's what it is. Maybe that's why they put Magnamut to 1. Okay, so with this board that we currently have, Vision plus Red Rising into Scarred. Vision's effect is then going to search you out your Crimson Gaia. Crimson Gaia then searches you out your Red Zone. Maybe you don't need it, maybe you do. Entirely up to you. And then we're going to sync into... boom. So when you use Scarred Red Dragon as Synchro, it will obviously destroy all of your opponent's attack position monsters. So then all you need to do is worry about the defense position ones later on. Has to be specifically a Resonator. I mean, I've pretty much got everything I need to, so we'll just get a Vision for an additional extension the next turn. Red Dragon Archfiend hits the board. Very, very nice. And then you synchro these two together. You can go into Bane or Disbatter. Entirely up to you. Bane is going to be probably a bit more of an aggressive one, but then... this is bad is actually also half decent as well. So actually, let's change this up. We did Bane last turn. Let's do Disbatter this turn. Because we've got the Overloop as well, it actually helps us out. So we use Overloop's effect, add ourselves back to hand, banishing Scarred. Use Disbatter's effect, add Scarred back to the board. Very nice. Then what you want to do here, let's have a look, see how far we can go. We'll go Overloop, and Overloop will banish the Red Rising. Now we've got the negate set up for Disbatter. We will then... kind of want to keep Scarred on the board. Overloop's decent, but I probably needed to get Wandering Wild King down beforehand, because otherwise I'll be locked with 2 tuners. And 2 tuners do not make a synchro. I mean, we can very easily special summon down the Vision Resonator, but it's not going to do anything for us, and you want to keep a space free. So the Overloop will just be there to banish. So technically I could keep this here and not banish the Red Rising. And then what you would do is you'd actually be able to special summon down Vision, and then you'd special summon down the Wandering King. So let's do it this way. I can probably go a little bit further actually. This is just getting greedy. Like the board I had previously, without the Overloop on the board, is going to get you game, because all you need to do is get an additional monster on the board and you're good to rock and roll. So what you'll do here is you can then synchro these two together and go into a Red Rising. And now, shockingly enough, Red Rising is not a once per turn. So you get to target a Resonator in the graveyard, and then you can sync climb up into a 7, or you can sync climb up into an 8. So it depends on where you want to go. I'm going to add back Crimson. If you add back the 1, which is your Synchron Resonator, you go into the Cully Belt. On this one, because I'm adding this back, and just because he is my Mac Daddy, we are going to be bringing out the Starlight Red Dragon Archfiend. So then you pretty much go Starlight Red Dragon Archfiend, destroy all face-up monsters with attack equal to, and then burn for 500. Now, obviously, destroy as many other special summon effect monsters on the field as possible with attack less than or equal to this card. All of these, so the only one that will get destroyed will be your Scarred. So you got to keep that in mind if you do that. So obviously you'd attack with Scarred, you'd then trigger Gaia, Book of Moon everything, destroy something with Scarred, Gaia, bring back Red Dragon Archfiend, attack, clear off all the defense position monsters, and then 9,700. That's your game. And alternatively, if you're going to get rid of your Scarred because you're going to use Starlight, then you'd use Scarlet's effect, you destroyed your own Scarred, you'd clear off your opponent's board, you'd burn them for the difference in damage, and then you go 3,005, 3,002, 3,000. So that's going to get your game there. As another alternative as well, just in case, so you'd go Battle Phase, Book of Moon everything, destroy a card, bring back Red Dragon Archfiend, clear all the defense position monsters off, and let's say your opponent activates something like a Welcome Labyrinth or a track card that stops you getting in for game. So you'd go, okay, attack, 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 and you go, oh, I've got 1,000 life points left. You go, okay, main phase 2, effect, destroy as many other special summoned effect monsters on the field as possible with attack less than or equal to this card, then inflict 500 damage to your opponent for each. So then you then go, okay, cool, I've just got rid of Red Dragon and Scarred, that's the final 1,000 damage. So there's loads of different little loopholes, which is really kind of cool with this deck. Obviously, Scarlet is a choice that I decided to make on that one, but you could very easily have gone with the level 7 to pop 2 cards, and then you book a moon, everything. Like, you just had so much board clearance. It's great. So that is it for the test stand video. I hope this has given you a bit of a different insight into the deck, showing you the consistencies, how it works, the other kind of options that you do have. You show you what the Bestial Dispatter makes. Now, to me, that is probably like the first one I would go for, just because if you can get Skullmeisters, you kind of have a hand trap that's going to be half decent for this format that is searchable. And I would like to hope that most people, unless you're new to the game, would have copies of Imperms or at least Ashes, so you don't need to go too far out of your way to get hold of those. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. Any questions at all, by all means, please put in the comments down below. I will be more than happy to answer them for you. But for now, as absolutely always, stay safe and, of course, happy dueling.